Welcome back to One Awesome Autistic, and for anybody that's new here, welcome and thank you for joining us. I wanted today to talk about clothing, and I know that may sound to some like a wishy-washy kind of topic, but it actually can be quite a big issue for autistic people. And I wanted to talk about a couple of different things in this video. So I wanted to talk about sensory issues that surround clothing, and also finding the right clothes as well. Clothing is actually something that is talked about and asked about during autistic assessment. So when I went through my assessment on the paperwork as well as during the assessment, I was actually asked about whether I like to wear the same clothing day in and day out. I actually don't, even though that's supposed to be a big trait of being autistic. I'm one of the people that doesn't like to wear the same clothes all the time. I have a varied wardrobe with lots of different styles in it, colours, different materials and things like that. But I do also have the bland items as well, because my clothing is kind of a bit of an extension of my personality and my mood on the day. So if I'm ill or I'm feeling a bit self-conscious or something like that, then I've got clothing that is just plain colours, such as greys and blacks and things like that, so I can just wear something that's a little bit more subdued. But then other days when I'm feeling quite confident or I'm going to particular events or anything like that, then I have my showy clothes. I like to stand out from the crowd and have quite unique pieces to wear. If you're someone that likes to wear the same things every day, or if you're a little bit more like me and you like to wear quite a varied selection of different clothing, let me know in the comments below. As an autistic person, I know the issues surrounding the right type of clothing all too well, particularly the sensory issues that can be involved with it. I'm quite lucky in that touch is not as big a sensory issue for me as other senses are, but I do still find some different materials annoying to wear or itchy, and they really irritate my skin and I can't bear to wear them, but luckily not as bad to the point of where it will cause me pain. I'm also a bit of a sensory seeker when it comes to touch, so I like the feeling of certain materials and will seek those materials out for comfort as well. There's various issues surrounding clothing and how it affects our sensory input, and the first one of those is the material of the items of clothing. Now, a lot of people that I talk to, it seems like soft is better, but that's not always the case, and for some people items that are soft can cause some serious problems. So it's all about finding the right materials that works for you. Sometimes that means putting yourself in potential sensory nightmare when it comes to shopping. I have to feel items to make sure I know that they're the right ones for me. But it's not also about the material on the outside, it's on the inside as well. So you're potentially going to feel something that you really don't like the feeling of, or that is going to cause you distress in some way, to find the right things that work for you. Like I say, I feel the outside as well and the inside as well, because sometimes they can feel a little bit different, especially on items such as coats and jackets and those sorts of things, because they're going to have a lining in them. Dresses as well can sometimes have a lining in them, so that's going to feel different to the outside sometimes. And my big avoidance is items with sequins on. The feel of the sequins is awful to me anyway. I hate them. It's very scratchy, but also you tend to have scratchy stitching on the inside of the item that people might not realise because you're just looking at the exterior of the garment. If you're somebody that is wanting to buy an item of clothing for an autistic person, then you need to find out as much details as possible, including exceptions and things like that. I love soft feeling things, but I cannot bear the feel of velvet and velour. So you need to know all those little nuances, what shops they prefer, because sometimes an autistic person will know that a particular store stocks a lot of clothing that they would like. But if you're ever in doubt, don't buy them a piece of clothing, maybe get them a gift card to their favourite shop. The second issue that can overload our sensory input is the fit of the items. Some people like tight fitting things because they like that compression, and that is a very pleasing feeling for them. Some people like clothing baggy, but not too baggy. So it all depends on your own preferences. I prefer stuff usually that's baggy. I'm wearing a bit of a tight fitting top today, but strappy tops, I don't like baggy strappy tops. I like these to be tighter fitting, because I often wear these either only in summer, or typically I actually wear these under other items to layer up. So I prefer these to be tight fitting, so that when I put something over it, it doesn't bundle up under my top and annoy me. But normally baggy things is always better for me. But there are always those tricky exceptions. So my favourite items of clothing are actually jumpers. I love a good sort of baggy jumper that has that right level of bagginess for me. But I have an issue with cuffs. I can never find the right cuffs. So I'm always pushing the arms up, or I'm always pulling them down and bunching them up in my hands, which then obviously ends up stretching the jumpers. So the third and the most important thing about clothing when it comes to sensory issues is tags, and this seems to be a big issue for a lot of people. Clothes tags that are stitched in can be really itchy, annoying. They can scratch your skin sometimes as well if you have quite sensitive skin. So they're a big no-no typically for autistic people. And there are two ways around this. You can get a decent stitch picker and take the time to actually pick the tag out. Cutting it can cause just as much issues as leaving the tag there, because you're going to cut it and cause quite a sharp edge. Some clothing nowadays actually has a printed tag, so that makes things a lot easier because you haven't got those ones to stitch out, but you've also sometimes got the wash label. But if you're buying clothes that typically wash at the same temperature, that's not so much a problem. And we all know the clothing world and shopping in general is just not built for autistic people at all. Shops are often loud with blaring music, sometimes overly eager shop assistants as well that are trying to be helpful, and also the crowds if you end up there on a busy time of the day. Then there's also the overhead, overly harsh, bright, unnatural lighting that stores tend to have. There's no way I'm ever doing a shopping trip without my headphones and my sunglasses, let me tell you that. It just would not happen whatsoever. Luckily nowadays we have the option to shop online. Sometimes that can be good, but sometimes it can be a minefield. The amount of choice can be quite overwhelming, but you also don't get the chance to feel the item and try it on before it arrives. So sometimes that can be a bit of a gamble of what is suitable. On the upside, there is a lot of information about the clothing on the website, so it will tell you the material. Now if you know that your preferred material is cotton, look at the items, and if it's cotton, you know approximately what it's going to feel like. And there are also size guides, so if you have up-to-date measurements to hand, then that will make it easier picking a size that should be able to fit you. I personally prefer going to shops because I like to feel the items first. I don't actually tend to try a lot of things on, I just generally know my size and know if something's going to fit me. If I shop online for something like clothing and I have to return it, my executive dysfunction kicks in and it takes me a while to get around to doing that, and sometimes I've ended up not getting around to doing it and then I lose money. But with my clothing style, particularly in the last couple of years, I started thinking more outside the box about what fits me and what suits me. I've actually started shopping quite often in the men's department. I find men's clothing sometimes a lot more fun than the women's clothing. It appeals a lot more and the fit of it is a lot better as well, whereas women's clothing is often cut to a certain shape and it's made to be tight in certain areas. For my body, that doesn't work out well because it's tight in all the wrong areas that makes me feel uncomfortable. So men's clothing hangs a bit better on me and I just find it a lot more comfortable. And also pockets. Men's clothing tends to have pockets, whereas women's clothing don't. They have better pockets on jeans, they have better pockets on jogging bottoms, whereas some women's items just will not even have pockets at all. Now I could go on forever talking about clothing, but I'll leave it at those points for now and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.